Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to see how AgilePoint NX can write a set of rows to an Excel sheet or read a set of rows from an Excel table. Office documents often play a very critical role in a business process, and traditionally AgilePoint NX has always had an excellent support for handling Office documents, whether it was for generating a Word, an Excel, or a PowerPoint document, or for that matter, handling workflows which route these documents through various steps of approval. Till now, AgilePoint was able to handle Excel documents which had named fields. So for example, here is a sample Excel document which has a name field over here, and I can read and write this field. With this release, we are also announcing support for reading and writing a table of rows to an Excel document. So to do something like this, so we can read the entire table of rows and map it back to the form or data entity. So that's what we are going to see in today's demo. So I'm going to switch to this browser. So here is the process which I'm going to run today. The first task is a very simple task. I've just used a dummy task step over here with an empty text field just to kick off the workflow as part of my sample demo. The next step is the main step which I'm going to cover in this demo. So here is the read Excel table activity. I'm going to read an Excel sheet which is hosted on Google Drive. So I specify where is my design time template kept. So I have to provide one design time template. And then at runtime, what would be the actual file which would be read? If you see, I'm going to say that at runtime, I'm going to read this file. Design time template is just provided to give me the schema of the Excel sheet, which you will see over here. So based on the design time template, I read that, okay, here are the fields which are, or columns which are available in Excel. And I'm going to map it to one of my subforms in my AgilePoint eForm. Now, once I have read this, just for the sake of demo, I'm going to take those rows and going to pass that into a data entity, a custom data entity which I have created. See, I have an entity called demo entity, and currently it has no rows. It has the same set of fields. And then finally, I'm going to show it on a form in a repeating table. So let's go and kick this workflow off. So as I said, this was my dummy form. I'm going to just go ahead and click submit. It was just used to invoke my sample workflow. I could have invoked it from any kind of event. So if I go back to my task list, because I had a task assigned towards the end of the workflow, I can see that the workflow went through reading the Excel, inserting the rows in the data entity, and finally it is setting on this step for my approval. So I'm going to go ahead and say open task. And as you can see, it has the set of rows which have been read from the Excel table. And if I go back to my data entity and hit refresh, the rows have been read and populated into the data entity. So that was how to read a set of rows from an Excel table. Now similarly, you can write a set of rows back to an Excel table. So again, I have a dummy task which I will be using to trigger the process. I have a data entity where I have a set of records. I'm going to query that data entity. So if you see that data entity in this part of the workflow is candidate employee. So I'm going to query that. Here is the candidate employee entity with a bunch of records. Now once I have read the values from data entity, I'm going to write it back into an Excel sheet. So I have the right Excel table shape over here. I'm again going to save it in a Google Drive. Again, it asks me to select a design time template so that I know the name of the columns which would be available in the Excel. And I specify my runtime template configuration and where would this file be saved. So for example, if you see, I'm going to say that dynamically create a new folder called save Excel files and save the file in that. And at the end, I specify my mapping over here. And I'm going to generate a file called this. Okay. So if I go back to my Google Drive, currently in that folder, there is no file. I'm going to go back to my work center. I'm going to bring up this new workflow form. As I said, this was a dummy form I used just to quickly initiate a workflow. And if I go back to my inbox, if you see, I have the task which was available towards the end of the workflow. It went in, queried my data entity, wrote it back into an Excel sheet, and now I can just open and verify that piece of data. So I'm going to go ahead and open the task. So as you can see, the whole list of records were read. And if I switch back to my Google Drive, a new Excel sheet has been made available. And if I open it, all the set of records are populated. So with this release, you can now start reading and writing a set of rows back to an Excel sheet. Thanks a lot for your time.